I grant you this thing. Hello and welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? Hello, I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. With me today, I'm my co-host Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent Four is a weekly show dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. Meet Phillip Deng, Grantable founder, connecting folks who want grants to those who can help them win them. Nothing like winning. I mean, winning beat was a thing that got super big. Like what was that guy's name when he like created that hashtag winning? What was that guy's name?
Oh,
The
that was
guy
Charlie
Sheen. Yeah. Like what does winning mean to you, Philip? And I know it's like the most like ridiculous first question that you would have expected, but as I said the word win, I was like, winning. Yes, that's what people want.
Firstly, thanks for having me on the show, and for serving up a great first question. So, first thing that popped into my mind for winning, we had a conversation, my co-founder and I, recently about something like this, and I would say, on a day-to-day basis, like having your food taste good, good conversations, and when you go to sleep, you sleep well because you feel like you put in a solid day's effort, and it mattered to what you're doing. So that to me is how I'm measuring wins these days.
And I feel like that's something that you can control to some extent, right? And if you had a process to know it, I mean, you can make the food taste good, right? You can go into your day and you can prepare and things like that. And from a grantable perspective, there's a process of people. Yeah, my guess is people who, and we're going to get into the whole grantable aspect of it, but those who apply for grants or go for a job, the reason some of them lose is because they don't follow the correct process to start, so they get weeded out. And so if you add a little salt and pepper in there, if you will, just like you would on your food, things can get better.
100%. I think I think I'm hearing you say is, there's two components. There's your mindset, which I think has a huge influence on how you perceive what's happening to you, whether it's sort of glass half full or half empty. Is this a win or is this a setback? And then the other component, I think, is your process and how you prepare. So that obviously is important in a day-to-day as an entrepreneur, but then also in the specific context of going after grants, which is my main background. I've only been a technology entrepreneur for a little over a year now, or actually a little less than a year. So that's really new for me. But prior to that, I had a 15-year career in the nonprofit space mostly. So a lot of work with grant-funded organizations. And when you're talking about grants or going after funding to support your enterprise, there are some basic things you want to do. You want to have a really clear idea of what you do and how you communicate that. There's your basics of financial management and how you communicate your work with numbers, and then there's kind of organization, like where are you storing all of your materials and how are you tracking all the opportunities that you're going after so that you can be as efficient with the process as you can. Just getting a lot of grants out the door is partially about capacity, but it's also partially about how you kind of use these different tricks to get more mileage out of your writing.
Yeah, I want to step back. We talked for a couple of minutes before we started recording this episode, and you're fairly well traveled in the sense of Seattle, Boston area. I first found out about you at 757 Accelerate in Norfolk, and now you're in Richmond. Talk to me a little bit about your journey along the way and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. There's even more destinations than that. I was, born in San Francisco, grew up in Minnesota and China for 3 years doing nonprofit work. And all of these different places have obviously shaped who I am and my perspective. And I think one of the main ways that it comes into play is when you're dealing with people in all these different areas. there are some commonalities that you learn how to work with, and then there are big differences. And sometimes, especially if you don't speak the language, for instance, learning Marshallese, like bringing my Mandarin up to a level. There's both kinds of skills, learning what people have in common and how to work with people's differences, I think has been a big part of my journey.
So where were you when you first heard about 757 Accelerate? And I would like to hear a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I was here in Richmond, Virginia, and I had just finished my first startup accelerator here in Richmond called Lighthouse Labs. And then I think because the Virginia startup ecosystem is really kind of on the ascendance, and there's a lot of communication between these companies. 757 had reached out and kind of publicized their opportunity, the accelerator, and a little bit tongue in cheek. So the first piece of software I built for Grantable was a tool to make grant writing faster, which I developed when I was a professional contract grant writer. And so that's what I actually went through the first accelerator with. So I had that, and again, a little tongue in cheek, I used my software to apply for 757 really fast, because that's what the software did. And I told them that, and I kind of created a video even, and I said, hey, this application only took me about 30 or 45 minutes, whatever it took. And it's kind of it's a demo of the product that I'd like to work on in your accelerator. So that's how I kind of got into it.
It's a pretty lengthy application process. I've helped a couple of companies, and I'm part of the evaluation team it's pretty lengthy and fairly redundant.
Right, and it's relevant to the grant space, because grant applicants experience a very similar thing, where a lot of the different proposals are asking for similar information, and the more skillfully you can organize your content library and then grab the pieces you need, you can gain back some time and be able to apply for more grant opportunities in the same way. So that was the first tool I built. We've pivoted a little bit, and that's now a feature on our roadmap. But yeah, that's how I got into 757.
It's interesting because I think about just like applying to a lot of speaking gigs, right? So if I do a decent amount of professional speaking, I guess is the correct terminology or something like that, and they all ask you the same damn questions. The simple stuff like what's your name and what's the topic and things like that. But then deeper on, kind of, I guess, just like these similar applications, it's like. Mm-hmm. Maybe this question is being asked a little differently, but the answers are almost always the same. And so if people who have to sit there and like think, oh my gosh, what am I going to say to this? When it's like, hold on a second, you did this once, the answer. Like, you could just have a Google Doc open and save it in there. Or it sounds like you could have something from like a feature of Grantable that would be able to fill it for you. And I think more people need to just have something like that so that their life can be made easier. So kudos to you for doing that. And I love the fact that you used your own tool to apply. I mean, that's like super groovy. And I would hope that if you were selling something like that, you did use the tool. And so kudos to you for doing that. You said 15 years in tech before that. The first time.
No, sorry. So 15 years in like the nonprofit sector, just into tech now for less than a year. So this is new for me. Got it.
Okay. I took my notes wrong. Okay. So 15 years as a nonprofit guy, 1 year ish into kind of tech type of thing. How do you learn how to do technology? How do you become a CEO? I think there's a lot of people that are, on the fence thinking about doing something like that. Is it just, figure it out, or how did you kind of get into that groove?
Well, I started a nonprofit before. So there are a few lessons that I could take from that, as far as, having a vision, talking to enough people that you feel like there's interest in going a few steps further than just an idea. So there's that. But as far as technology, it's been a steep learning curve. I enjoy learning, and I think a lot of nonprofit sector folks that hear this can probably relate in that a lot of times you're wearing a ton of hats. And so learning becomes this really important skill that you have a lot of opportunity to practice. So I picked up a bunch of stuff. I mean, just everything from throwing together a website and stitching together your standard business suite of business tools to actually, I was really deep into bubble.io, which is one of these no code platforms. So I was working up prototypes and full on open beta versions of software that I shared out to people. And I just taught myself how to do that. So I, watched some videos, but I actually found it pretty fun. I like building things. I built my, the inside of my camper van myself. So again, kind of learned how to do all the electrical and woodworking and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of motivation from it being fun and enjoying learning about a new subject like technology. But the other side of it too is I often felt really overwhelmed. And when you're the person out there kind of selling the idea and quietly that you're also the person that's going to have to build the tech to deliver on these promises, I never felt like I could fully be out there advocating because I was a little bit hesitant about, can I actually, cross the bar that I'm setting for myself. And so, yeah, it's been tough. It's been a real growthful year as far as how I pushed myself.
And you just brought on a co-founder, is that right?
Yeah, and that's been transformative.
In terms, so did you when looking for a co-founder, is your co-founder tech? Is he experienced in the tech side? So did you balance one another out?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a story I reflect on a lot. His name's Robert. He's a really experienced full stack engineer, and we met just literally in passing in this co-working space, and we stopped to chat, like water cooler type chat, where we just kind of shared about what we were working on, and then for months we would just kind of catch up if we saw each other. But what was happening was sometimes I would kind of dive into what he was working on and we'd really sort of hash out ideas, and then vice versa. Sometimes he would really dive into my space and ask lots of great questions, check out the stuff that I was building, talk through some different ideas. And then we just got closer and closer. And then eventually when I pivoted from the writing tool to the marketplace model, I think everything sort of crystallized for him, all the conversations we'd had. And he kind of said, well, you know what, if you're interested, I'd like to build this with you. And so it was a very sort of organic coming together, and more so than just his technical ability. There was definitely sort of that chemistry where we enjoyed spending time talking, learning about each other. And then we also still took our time. We did a co-founders questionnaire with 50 questions that's circulating around the internet, where they're deep questions about your work
it's a
style.
marriage.
It is, right.
Yeah, and you're going in with someone, yeah.
So we went through that and we shared, we took a good amount of time to go over our answers together. All 50 of them went through it and just kind of really wanted to see if this was the right way to go. So fortunately, it's been awesome. I tried some co-founder matching platforms. I had some misfires where people were enthusiastic, but then, it didn't quite line up in the right way. So it was tough going. And those were the most sort of anxiety producing experiences for me because, they're relationships, they're people I really care about. I don't want anybody to be upset or feel that they haven't, gotten what they wanted out of a relationship. And so I'm really grateful to finally be where I am with a co-founder.
It's interesting that you use some other tools to try to match you. Tim, I can't remember if I knew you when we were doing this, but there was something that we had hosted like that in Norfolk I mean, 10 years ago, and it was like co-founder dating or something like that. And like, to me, like the way that you just explained that, Philip, like it has to be organic. It's literally like, hey, like I met this person. It went a little further. It went a little further. It went a little further. And like I've yet to see, and maybe I just don't have enough case studies in front of me to see a lot of things like a matchmaking service like that fulfill, because there's so much that has to go into it. And so it's cool to hear that story of water cooler towards co-founder aspects.
Your home office, socially distanced coffee shop, or your fancy all bricked out corner office, wondering why no one can see your business and sales are all over the place? Sounds like you need a pro. That's why I developed the Anomaly Academy. Insert clever copy here. Oh, I guess I was supposed to put something else there. Oops. You can grab access to the Anomaly Academy now at zackmillersays.com/Anomaly Academy.